Headquartered in Clayton, Missouri, Perimeter Solutions is a global company developing fire safety solutions that help firefighters and fire management organizations around the world to protect lives and property. Today, we take a trip down under and talk with James Perriss, General Manager of the Asia Pacific region at Perimeter Solutions. James shares an inside look at the Australia and Asia Pacific fire safety industry and gives us a quick forecast for Australia's 2022 wildfire season. All that on today's episode of Solutions That Save, a fire safety podcast from Perimeter Solutions. Hello, I'm your host, Dan Green. Welcome to Solutions That Save, a fire safety podcast from Perimeter Solutions, helping save property, natural resources, critical infrastructure, and lives. On previous episodes of Solutions That Save, we have discussed how increasing regulation is shaping the fire safety industry. This is nothing new to today's guest, James Perriss, who heads Australia operations for Perimeter Solutions. Australia has been at the forefront of fire safety regulation for nearly 2 decades. James gives us the history and talks about technologies developed by Perimeter Solutions that meet these new regulations and help protect property and lives. But first, James starts us off with a little background on his career.
Yeah, so I was approached in late 2012 by Solberg and was actually brought in as the sales manager. At that time, Solberg was a relatively small organization growing into Australia, and they were actually growing, and it was the second salesperson they brought on to try and grow the market. We continued to grow, and in 2014, I actually took over as the Australian and New Zealand sales manager and continued to have success until 2015, where I was actually took over as the Asia Pacific sales manager. And then in early 2016, I was actually appointed as the general manager for suppressants for the Asia Pacific region for Solberg Asia Pacific. And obviously was continuing that role until early this year, where we acquired a new organization in Australia that allowed us to move into the retardant side of the business as well. So now I'm the general manager for Asia Pacific region for Solberg for both suppressants and retardants.
Great. And we've had a lot of conversations with the U.S. team through our podcast series up to date. Will you describe what's unique about the Australia Asia Pacific market?
Certainly, the one probably biggest unique thing to the market is around Australia being very fluorine-free focused for the last 15 plus years. So we've actually been supplying fluorine-free foam into certain agencies, fire emergency agencies, prior to 2007. So there's a lot of education that's already happened in Australia on fluorochemicals. A lot of agencies and end users are actually already using fluorine-free foams. So we've actually seen that kind of market grow in Australia at a lot quicker rate than other places, followed very much in line with how Norway has progressed. The reason some of that has been driven is unique things that have happened in Australia, particularly is they brought in some very clear regulations and legislation. So they were actually one of the first states. Queensland was one of the first states in the world to actually bring in legislation to look at both what they call long chain, the C8s, and also the short chain C6 fluorochemicals, ultimately bringing in regulations in 2016 that actually prevented the discharge of fluorinated foams. So the one thing that Solberg in Australia has been very strong on is the fluorine-free foams, promoting and marketing those to the industry, and also working very closely with key users. This is now actually, again, the uniqueness of the region is New Zealand and other states have also followed suit with South Australia actually putting a ban on PFAS foams, release of them to environment. We've also now got New Zealand Environment Protection Agency bringing in restrictions on a phased basis over the next 2 to 5 years. And even now, this is rolling into the Singapore and Asian markets. We're actually seeing regulations brought in early 2020 for Singapore that actually will bring in restrictions for the use of PFOA-related compounds in firefighting foam. And even now seeing this happening in changes in China and Korea as these countries start to review and potentially bring in restrictions into the future.
It seems like your region is advanced in terms of regulation. And I just wanted to ask, on top of that, what are some of the challenges that your market faces that are unique to that area?
Yes, certainly. And this is one of the big things. This is actually one of the biggest challenges, the diversity this brings. So we actually have diversity just down to state regions, but also different countries. So some countries are very ahead of the regulations and others are only starting to even look at the regulations, or some don't even have the regulations yet on certain chemicals. So this is why as Solberg and as Perimeter are able to bring a huge range of knowledge to the market. We're able to actually steer end users through this current minefield, whether it's regulations or which is the correct product to go with, or how we meet the fire performance that's actually required. So again, this is meeting this diversity for the products and approvals is one of the biggest challenges. The fantastic thing we've got within Perimeter Solutions is an amazing research and development team that's actually allowed us to bring in the ability to look at new products, but also to work closely with key end users to actually tailor products to their needs, whether that's in the fluorine-free market or also still in some of the markets with fluorinated is still accepted. We're still working with companies to that end. This has now allowed us to actually bring some new, unique products to the market, as well as Class A's, Class B's, and hardware that actually meets for those markets. Again, this is mostly end user driven. So we are focusing on fluorine free as we move forward into the markets, but we are also assisting with the changes from C8s to C6s. One of the biggest challenges we see is obviously the fluorine free foams have a unique product that's actually removed or not included in, which is the fluor surfactants. The challenge is finding a product that has the same effectiveness and the same high level of performance that is expected in the market for a fluorinated product. What we've actually discovered is over 20 plus years within Solberg, in fact, much longer than that, of research and development, that we're able to bring to the market certain products that meet these requirements, whether it comes down to actually real world effectiveness or even meeting the same approvals. So whether it's UL, EN 1568, IKO, IMO, Lastfire, the list goes on. The critical things in creating the effective fluorine-free foam is it's got to have the same extinguishment or similar extinguishment times as the previous products, as well as having secure burn back, so securing the fire and holding it in place, suppressing it. We're finding now, as more and more industries start to look at the use of our fluorine-free foams, our high-performance fluorine-free foams, that we're actually finding the same results being passed back to us, that customers and end users actually feel confident with the products that are being used. So one of the biggest challenges, they say, is actually getting a product that meets their expectations, and we're finding that the end user are actually saying that's now being done, and which is fantastic and a real credit to our R&D team.
And with your focus on the firefighting foam business, in what you just told me about everything that you're doing in this area, will you tell us about your latest products?
Certainly. So again, we're continuing to innovate. That's one of the driving forces behind Solberg, and the same with the synergies with Perimeter Solutions. So one of the latest products that's been brought to the market is a high performance Solberg VersaGuard multi-purpose 3x3. So it's designed to work on both hydrocarbons and on polar solvents. This is a very unique product. It's very stable when it comes into contact with water, but also it is a lower viscosity, similar to an alcohol resistant fluorinated foam. We have done a significant amount of testing. So this product is leading the market in approvals. It has UL 162. That's application rates designed for hydrocarbons, and also low application rates for polar solvents such as ethanols, methanols, and IPA. We've also got ICO level B, so it covers aviation markets, as well as EN 1568 1A throughout for fresh and salt water. So it can be used in almost every eventuality. It also has IMO approval, which is the marine organization, and more critically, it has Lastfire, which is the large atmospheric storage tank batch testing. This has actually gone through some very large-scale testing just recently and has shown itself in both testing performance, but also in real world in fuel in depth. So this product is certainly going to lead the market in a change, where products that are previously fluorinated 3x3, covering some significantly fuel in depth large tanks. This product is certainly a suitable replacement moving forward into that market. We also have some other unique products that we're bringing to the market, some that are focused specifically in Australia, being focused towards the mining industry. We have a low viscosity 1% foam that has both approvals for Class A firefighting, so woods, papers, plastics, but also has Class B, so liquid fuels coverage. This is a fantastic product to go into mine sites where it's a 1%, so you can carry a significantly reduced amount of foam to do the same job. Low viscosity, meaning it will actually easily perform and proportion through your equipment, but also the high performance this product brings as well. It's got the UL listing for wetting agents for the Class A side of things. You have the Class B approvals, whether it's EN 1568, UL, and also it has been batch tested to last fire. This product brings a significant punch to the market that allows mine sites to have one product that could cover their entire area. And then again, we've also continued to look at the Class A side of things. So those were Class B focused. We've recently just brought out in Australia a new product under Perimeter Solutions banner, which was the Firebreak Plus, which is a new Class A foam with the 5 approvals for fixed wings, fixed tank helicopters, and also ground application. And we know within Australia, a Australian manufactured and Australian focused product is very key in the Class A market. So this is another area that we're developing and have actually brought out a new product in this range.
2021 was another highly active wildfire season here in the U.S. With Australia's wildfire season approaching, what are the expectations there? Will it be another active season, or will it be more subdued compared to previous years?
Yeah, that's always a great question. It's always hard to predict these things, so it's a bit of a crystal ball gazing. But we certainly know this fire season is not following the same trend as the US. At this very moment in time, it's a very wet start to the season. It's a very potentially delayed start to the season, which as an Australian resident, this is actually a welcome change. It's nice to actually have the fires subside and also be able to prepare and get better prepared for any future needs. As I say, the issue with the rains is that it can actually increase the fuel loading. So again, just because we're having a slow start to season doesn't mean we won't see an increased season towards the latter part of our summer. And this is also kind of being reflected in reports around Australia, is it looks like certain regions within Western Australia and certain regions in regional Victoria and South Australia, that there are potential still for some above fire danger. But having said that, this season certainly looks a lot less subdued to the previous seasons, and certainly nothing like the 2019-2020 season that we all endured.
So before we let you go, is there anything that we didn't cover today that you'd like to discuss?
I think we've covered everything that I wanted to discuss, but I think one of the critical things that is often not discussed or not brought up in this conversation is the last 2 years has been significantly challenging with COVID and with everything. And one of the things I really wanted to make clear on this is how fantastic the Solberg team has been building through these challenges. We've had places in Melbourne that have set records of being in lockdown. We've had places in Sydney where a lot of my team is based, where they've operated in silos in lockdown. And through all of that, we've still managed to be very successful. We've managed to continue building, and I think it's a very big testament not only to Solberg's team mentality, but also to Perimeter Solution, who've supported us through that as well. So it's been challenging globally, but I really wanted to thank my team for all their hard work and all their efforts.
Do you want to learn more about solutions that save property, natural resources, critical infrastructure, and lives? Visit us at perimetersolutions.com. That's perimeter-solutions.com. See how our products impact critically important issues of life, issues where there often is no room for error and the job doesn't offer second chances. Please join us again for another episode of Solutions That Save, a fire safety podcast from Perimeter Solutions.